Just a general welcome. My name is Nancy Kirby. I'm the Executive Director here at IncubatorWorks and joined today by several of our IncubatorWorks team. So, and with that, I think I'll launch right into today's presentation, which is about the latest on the Paycheck Protection Program and repositioning your business. So, getting better at sharing the screen, I think. And Barry, do you see the presentation okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So today we're going to cover the Paycheck Protection Program overview and updates, our local loan programs, and where we stand on reopening and repositioning your business for the overused words, but I'll use it again, new normal. So it seems like it was a lifetime ago. The original round for the Paycheck Protection Program was $349 billion. As you know, that was used up quickly. And the current round is $310 billion. As of last weekend, there was still $175 billion available. In the latest round, 70% of loans have been under 50,000, which is really good to hear because that means this time small businesses have been the recipient of these loans rather than the big corporations, publicly held corporations. Average loan size is at 79,000. And local banks are still accepting applications from new customers. So you don't have to be an existing customer to apply. Right now, I know it's Corning Credit Union, Chemung Canal Trust, and Elmira Savings Bank, for example. Quick summary of the terms. It's a 2-year repayment on any amount that's not forgiven, 1% interest, no collateral, no personal guarantee, no credit check. And the loan amount is, you can borrow up to 2.5 times the average monthly payroll. Or if you're self-employed, 2.5 times your net income from your Schedule C divided by 12 times 2.5. For the loan forgiveness, 75% of the loan must be used for payroll. Payroll is calculated by taking your gross pay, adding any group health insurance for employees or retirement contributions. Important point, you do not include the Social Security tax you pay on employees for your gross pay. The other 25% of the loan can be used for rent, utilities, and mortgage interest. I was on a call earlier today with Allison Hunt from Congressman Reed's office was on the call, and she said that there is still a great degree of interest in expanding what the 25% can be used for forgiveness. So they expect that, you know, we were promised that information this week. She said it's probably going to be next week, so we'll keep our fingers crossed that we'll get it next week. As we covered last week, you have to take one full disbursement of the loan within 10 days of the loan approval. And loan approval goes by the date of the SBA assigning a number to the loan after it's approved. If you don't take the money within 20 days, it will get canceled. And loan funds used during that 8-week period following that day are eligible for forgiveness. And yes, you can pay employees even if they're not working. And yes, you can pay yourself even if you're not working. So here's the bad news on the PPP. The IRS came out with a notice, I think it was last weekend, that if a portion of your loan is forgiven, and then you use that to pay, obviously you've used it to pay payroll or expenses, that payroll, well, actually it's funny, this is the actual wording. So typical IRS regulation, and you can read this if you like to, and where I took it, where you see my ... dots are where I just took out code sections to try to make it a little more understandable, but it's still not very understandable. So what's the translation? Well, the translation is that whatever money is used to pay for those eligible expenses is not a deduction on your 2020 income tax return. Kind of frustrating because the loan forgiveness is not taxable income according to the CARES Act, but this IRS notice in effect makes it taxable because you can't deduct what was forgiven. Does this mean you shouldn't have taken the loan or you shouldn't take one? No, it's still a good deal. Basically, if you got $100,000 and your tax rate's 20%, you'll end up with $80,000 out of the deal. So it's still a good deal, but you do need to plan on the impact on your taxes for 2020. And oddly enough, since self-employed people are replacing draws with this income, and draws aren't deductible, it is not going to be taxable to self-employed people. It's the strangest thing. And the good news is, if you would like some assistance calculating your PPP forgiveness, you can feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to help. All right, so those are updates on the PPP. Any questions so far on that or where the program stands? I know I went through pretty quickly, but we've gone over it several times in the last few weeks. Okay, hearing no questions, seeing no questions, we'll go on to the next section. So the Small Business Debt Relief Program is working as advertised, and people who have a outstanding loan guaranteed by the SBA are already receiving payments from the SBA going directly to those loans. So if you do have a loan like that and you still had made payments on in April, you want to check with your lender or with our REDEC, the organization that's actually in our incubator that manages these loans. So, and that should be good from April for 6 more months. So what's that mean? Through October, the SBA should be making these payments. The Steuben County Emergency Relief Loan Program is underway, and they are loaning money. So this is working out quite well. As I noted in the points here, the REDEC is administering this grant, and they're also working to leverage SBA loan opportunities at the same time. So if you do apply for this loan and you're good applicant for an SBA loan, then the folks at REDEC, George and Melanie, will be happy to talk to you about an SBA loan. Chemung County has a similar program. It's due to roll out any day now. They're still working on some of the setup and the administration, but so it's almost identical to the Steuben County program, and you do apply for this with REDEC. All right, and Barry is due to take over, but he's not at his desk. So I'll keep going for a little while, and then, oh, here he is. Okay. So I was just about, actually I should stop and ask if there are any questions about those loan programs.
I see Dave wrote a question in the chat room.
Okay. I gotta see the chat room here. Where are we?
Yeah, Nancy, I can just verbalize it.
Okay.
I was just wondering, with the PPP, is there any word on exactly what the procedure is going to be for people who have been successful in obtaining that loan with an institution, how they then need to go about applying and getting approved for forgiveness for all or part of the loan?
There's no detailed Well, what the CARES Act and what the SBA guidelines say is that after the 8-week period and then the following 60 days, the business that got the loan will provide the documentation showing how they expended the loan, and that the bank will actually make the decision on forgiveness. So for a self-employed person, what they need to do is to show the checks that they actually wrote to themselves to replace their draws. And if it was used for rent or utilities, to show that documentation. So our recommendation is to have a spreadsheet with the disbursements from the loan proceeds, showing the date, the check number, the payee, the amount, what it was for, and actually doing that for payroll and showing the percentages compared to the total loan proceeds, and then having the other expenditures and showing how those were spent. And the bank will actually want to see the documentation backing it up. So it might be a canceled check or a copy of a check for payroll. It might be a gross payroll, a payroll detail or a payroll report from a payroll provider. So the key will be to have good documentation that's clear, that it's very easy for them to see that it was spent as it was expected, and to approve that.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions on the PPP? All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Barry and ask him to talk about reopening and repositioning.
Hello, everyone.
I'll stop share here and let you take, you've got the PowerPoint, right, Barry?
I don't actually. I'll go right through your PowerPoint. You can keep it up and I'll just have
Okay,
you
all right.
go through a couple slides.
Okay,
So the first phase, we're going to go through what the governor's phases are. So phase one in reopening, we're looking at construction, manufacturing, wholesale supply chain, and select retail. Mainly that is going to be the food, as well as like the alcohol, where you can pick up growlers and that sort of stuff curbside. Phase two, which we're assuming phase one is going to be May 5th, anywhere from May 15th to May 17th. Phase two would likely be 2 weeks after that. Professional services, finance, insurance, retail, administrative support, real estate, and rental leasing. So these are kind of the general categories right now. We're not exactly sure. I'm sure we'll find more detail as it goes on, and they actually give us who is going to be included in that. As you'll see as I go through these, they don't give a lot of detail as far as like spas, barber shops, that sort of thing. So
Barry, I did check with some economic development people and people who've been talking to the state about this, and those details are not available yet.
okay, all right. Phase three, we're looking at restaurants and food service. My guess on all of these is that they are going to be at certain levels. So there's going to be numbers of individuals that can be in any establishment at any one time, and they will be posted. Phase four would be like arts, entertainment, recreation. So that would likely be like the movie theaters, the like CMOG, those types of establishments. So we don't know a ton, but we know that there's an idea and there is a plan for them to open. If you can go to the next slide. So some of the guidelines for reopening, or some of the things that we're looking at, talking points, adjusting workplace hours, shifting the design in your facility to reduce density. So if you have multiple people in your area trying to continue the social distancing aspect, if you don't have the ability to do that, being able to provide masks for your staff, also customers in that case as well. So enact social distancing protocols. And one of the things that we're doing here is like with conference rooms, just putting certain numbers based on how many people you can get within a 6-foot distance from each other. Also restricting non-essential travel for employees. So not allowing people to go off-site. So if you do have staff member that are traveling for their own personal pleasure, they go on vacation, establishing some sort of criteria around if they go on an airplane that they should be looking at a 2-week minimum quarantine time before they return to work. So getting all of those policies and procedures established before the reopening is going to be key. Require all employees and customers. It's okay. I had it. All employees and customers to wear masks. And that's going to be in the interim. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but this is mainly going to be around public areas. So if you're traveling from your office to the restroom, you're going to want to have a mask on, type of thing. Implementing strict cleaning and sanitation standards. So last week I got into touch points. So just making sure that door handles, those types of areas are getting cleaned as you're using them, whether it be in conference rooms or in office areas. Enact continuous health screening. So I know a lot of establishments are doing like the infrared thermal thermometers, just giving staff members and anybody that's coming into your establishment the opportunity to check their temperature before entering. So not necessarily something that you have to do, but it's another touch point, another way of ensuring that your staff feels a little bit more comfortable, your customers feel a little bit more comfortable coming in. Continue tracing, tracking, and reporting cases. So an idea around that is just having like a direct line, like a TV feed ongoing, so that people can see what's happening at the Steuben or Chemung or Schuyler County Health Department, see what the numbers look like on a daily basis. Also, what that does is it gives people an idea when they're walking into your facility if somebody has come into contact with an area. So they usually post where these areas are, the hot points, so the Walmarts, the Targets, those types of things. So your staff can look at that easily and say, oh my gosh, I was there at this time, I need to go home. So gives you another piece of making your staff feel comfortable. And then developing liability processes. This is more around cleaning and setting different policies around staff. So people that are going to be staying at home for whatever reason, you have that staffing policy that's outlined. Also, as far as cleaning, so making sure that you've got a cleaning policy established, so that if somebody does happen to come into your facility, you've got a backup plan, a plan B that you're following with the health department. Okay, so which phase does your business fall under? So this is kind of a question. Does anybody have any guesses on where they fall based on going through those phases? I'll open it up to the peanut gallery.
I actually just got my essential status.
Oh, good.
Oh, great.
Took like 2 weeks, but I did get it.
Anybody
great.
else have any ideas on where they may fit?
I'd say I hope it's more than wishful thinking that I would be falling under phase 2. I would think, looking at the other folks I know on the call, like Brent Sharkey as well, the type of work that we're doing falling under professional services in terms of going out and doing videography, say.
Right. And I would anticipate that you guys, and you'll see as we get into this presentation a little bit further, you guys are going to get called to action sooner than that. We're assuming you guys are going to be called to action like now or have been in the last couple weeks. So,
Well, then the whole overarching thing is if you can work from home, if you can work remotely,
right.
then
Yeah,
you
so
can
there have
able
been a
to keep
number of
working.
projects that I've gotten started with, at least in a completely remote capacity, where I'm giving people, outfitting them maybe with equipment that I drop off to them at their doorstep, and then helping them facilitate making a recording of their own interview. But once phase 2 hits and we're cleared to actually go out and work in public, albeit respecting social distancing, wearing masks and all, there would be ways for, I would think, for us to be able to set up a camera 6 feet away from somebody and conduct an interview. Like we've probably all seen this happen on national televised news, where they show the camera far back and a microphone on a boom pole setup, where, you know, the camera person can stay socially distanced from an interviewee.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
People must think that I'm expendable because unfortunately I've actually been to Ira Davenport and I'm going there again tomorrow. So I'm like on the front line of some projects I'm doing for Arnet that specifically is related to what they're doing and you know, how they're going about their protection policies. So I'm significantly decked out. Jamie has hooked me up with the ultimate stuff. So I'm filming and cleaning and doing the whole 9 yards. I don't know if they think I'm expendable or not. I worry about that.
I imagine they think you're, because they're essential and you're working for them, you become essential, I would gather. It's,
Yeah.
the whole essential thing is really rather, it's amazing how it expands and contracts.
Yeah, not to dominate the conversation with what Brent and I do, but that I've kind of been trying to gauge as people contact me whether their need is essential or non-essential. For instance, we live streamed a funeral last week because those things are still considered essential. So I considered making the video aspect of that part of an essential need, but we haven't been doing anything just for marketing purposes. And what you're talking about, Brent, is certainly putting together training materials, things like that, that would help essential workers. I certainly think, you know, that's where you just use your own best judgment about where things fall.
And as you guys are looking forward, I think you're going to find that funeral homes in particular are going to continue down that path, because there are more opportunities, I would say, to be able to do stuff like that in a virtual environment. They're going to have to as we move forward. So they're definitely going to be looking at you guys to help them with that, I'm sure.
And Barry, that leads right into the next question.
Right. So how will you reposition your business to succeed in the new environment? So it's basically going through our co-starters canvas and saying, what is the new problem that we need to solve for, you know, these businesses, or what do these businesses have as a new problem that they need to solve? So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity that's coming out of that. How will you maintain or increase your revenue? How will you reduce expenses? An example where this is a little easier to accomplish. So professional offices, you're going to be increasing virtual connection to clients. So from our perspective, we're doing these types of events, holding these types of events. I would anticipate we will be doing virtual networking events in the future. We're going to be doing a lot of our co-starter type training virtually in the future, just based on this new norm. So looking at the environment that we're at now and trying to determine what the next steps are going to be, what your clients' needs are going to be in the future, is going to be very important. So repositioning also means a fresh look at marketing, messaging, connecting to your customers. So an example, a regional commercial cleaning company has many of its large customers shut down. In the phase 4 group for reopening, basically the business precautions are strict cleaning and sanitation standards. So basically looking at what is coming up. So everybody that is going through this reopening process is going to be looking at having to clean. And safety and sanitation for small businesses is going to be key. And whether or not those small businesses are comfortable doing that is going to be huge. So if you've got all of these new requirements for cleaning and there's policies and procedures that you could be liable with the Department of Health in the future, you're going to want to enlist somebody that is an expert in that. And so as a cleaning company, you're going to want to be looking at that, going out and saying, this is me, I am an expert, I'm local, I'm here to help support your business. I'm here to make your staff members feel safe, and I'm here to make your customers feel safe. And this is the services that I'm offering to be able to do that. Okay, you can go to the next slide.
Yeah, and just one point on that is that this business, this example, has got to change the way they get that message to those small businesses.
Right.
Because in the past, they've done it word of mouth and personal contacts. Well, word of mouth isn't going to work as well anymore, and personal contacts aren't going to work as well anymore. So there's a whole new market of small businesses that need this service now, and maybe in the past said, well, we'll just do it ourselves. So how are they going to get it out there?
So the next step, updating their messaging, so including reopening standards and their ability to meet whatever state, local, federal government type requirements are going to be out there. Getting the message out to small businesses in the area. Again, getting that whole safety, sanitation, and it's all about the safety of your staff and your customers. So making that case that this is what we're doing. We are protecting your customers, we're protecting your staff. Determine the key message. So emails utilizing their existing network through the Chamber of Commerce, social media messaging, working with existing customers for referrals, continue to be a resource for customers who can't reopen, yet maintain a presence as a resource for their planning.
Yeah, so in this case, it's customers that are in the phase 4, might be education, schools, might be museums, that are not going to be open for a while. But meanwhile, this company has to keep working. So now there's a whole bunch of potential customers in phase 2, maybe even phase 3, that haven't used their services before.
Right.
So this company needs to think about what their message is, and then how they're going to get it to people, because their old personal contact and word of mouth isn't going to work as well in today's environment. So requires a rethinking of how to get the word out. So
go ahead, Nancy.
no, actually, this is this is your example.
Yeah, this one's my baby. So we've been doing a lot with our co-starter short course. And so one of the things going through that we find is that we're talking a lot about the co-starters canvas. So I kind of did a little problem mapping utilizing the co-starters canvas. So I'm using Dan Flatt's organization, Multimedia Services. They had a really great couple of ideas on how to market their business. They defined the problem as COVID-19, but originally with their first marketing attempt, they did the COVID-based signage. So they found that everybody in the small business community needed COVID-based signage to say, you got to stay 6 feet away from your neighbor, you got to have a mask on. So having all of that signage identified. Their customer they identified was the local community based businesses that didn't have like a marketing or HR department, so smaller scale. Their alternatives, so they developed, the customers in this case could develop and print their own, or they could buy online, or they could find another printer maybe that they hadn't used before. the solutions, so providing templates. So one of the creative things on this was putting a template together. So basically the templates were already made. All they had to do was fill in their logo, and they had the ability to customize them. So that was already done. They were giving these things away for free up to a certain point, so customers could get so many of them for free. The benefit in this case, so what was accomplished? So through this campaign, they were able to get goodwill within the community. They got some guidance on necessary signage. So the customers had the signs already done. They didn't have to worry about whether they were the correct type of sign. Non-customers were able to use their online ordering system. So in Dan's case, he would be able to do some data collection with that. The quality of work, so people were able to establish what the quality of work multimedia did, and keeping staff busy. So Dan had his full staff that he needed to keep busy, and this was a great opportunity to do that for him. And then the message in this overall was that multimedia was open and they were in the community and ready to help out. So I will do a screen share real quick, Nancy. I was able to pull this up on their website. So this is kind of what they had out there. They actually had a video that ran through WETM.
WNY.
Or WENY,
Make sure you give the right
sorry.
station credit.
And they did the COVID-19 signs, and they had a creative base on what you could do with those, and giving people an opportunity to just go online and order them, and they could just get them shipped out for free. And then the second piece of what they did on a creative marketing, so they were also able to, did you guys see the screen?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so if I can pull it up, you guys are, can you see it now?
Like there you go, right there.
Okay, so this is what they did with the signs. I apologize, I still getting used to the virtual stuff, but they did the free COVID-19 signs, and this was actually run on, what was it, WETM or WENY, as a commercial, and they did this through Facebook, and you were able to share it. So I don't know how many shares that they got, but I'm sure it was in the thousands. So you figure that kind of marketing is not cheap. Then one of the other things that they are doing, so they're also doing the graduation event. So Dan has also volunteered to do signs for, I think it's 4 or 5 of the local school districts.
There's 42 schools in all, Barry.
What's that?
There's 42 schools in all with about 4,500 students total.
So he was able to do the signs for these graduating classes, and is supporting that effort, and has worked with CCU. I know he's working with Brent as well to make these things happen. And it's just it's a great story for goodwill, but the other piece is down the road. It's going to be incredibly awesome for those guys, because these kids are going to be having their weddings, their graduations, and they're going to be looking back at who gave them that sign, and it's a huge piece of this marketing, and it's one that's outside of the box that people locally are going to remember for a long time. So
yeah, perfect example. A perfect example of repositioning and marketing, and taking a bad situation and building goodwill. So okay. So I'll go back to sharing my screen then. All right, am I back with my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so Barry did a really good job on this slide of using the business model canvas and saying, okay, multimedia saw a problem and they saw a solution and a message that will help them position their business to be successful as we come out of this. So, more good news today, just to remind you, some of you know, but if you're looking for assistance in repositioning as you come through the COVID crisis, we're here to help. We'll use, pretty much use our Co-Starters business model canvas to get you there. And we provide one-on-one mentoring to entrepreneurs and small businesses at no charge. And as I mentioned, we use the Co-Starters. And we're doing some kind of mini Co-Starters classes. We just did our first as a trial run. We had 4 sessions, and everybody liked the 4 sessions so much, we're doing a part 2 to the mini Co-Starters, but then we'll be starting a fresh cohort for the 4-session class about mid-month. So stay tuned, or if you want to get on the list, because we had people on the list before we couldn't fit into the cohort, you can contact Ashley at this email. And here's our contact information again. We also have the contact information for the Small Business Development Center and for REDEC. And I think we'll probably continue these Zoom calls for another couple of weeks anyway, especially as we get more information on the reopening rules. In fact, we may change the title to repositioning and reopening, or rebuild, or something like that going forward, while still maintaining updates on the PPP and forgiveness. So that's our presentation for today. Do we have questions from the group?
And I see Dan's on. I didn't know if he wanted to add anything or not, but
Any comments or questions? If you have any feedback or anything you'd like us to cover, please feel free to email us. Also,
Roger Grace here. Sorry.
hi, Roger.
Hey, I'm here. Nice to see your smiling face again.
Thank you.
Hey, question, Nancy, you kind of addressed this early on. With the phase 2 of PPP being dissipated at rapid rates, what do you hear of how long it's going to take for it to go away, and what the potential of a third dip into the Treasury is going to be, and when and where, and look into your crystal ball?
That's a tough one. Phase 4 of all of this is, of course, is just the preliminary work is going on in Congress, and they're talking about ideas. Oh gosh, there's another program that's called, let me see, I find my notes here. It is the Main Street Lending Program that's being run by the Treasury Department. And that's been very slow to roll out. My gut instinct is that Congress won't put any more money in the PPP because they'll be waiting to see what happens with that Main Street program. It tends to be larger. It's all loans and it's larger, but just so many unknowns. So I don't think they're going to put any more money in the PPP. There's no money in the economic disaster injury loans right now either, the EIDL loans, except for farmers, which is kind of funny because at first they prohibited farmers from applying for that. I think there might be some more money in that going forward because it's a more traditional program. I do think, like I said, that they're going to become much more liberal on the forgiveness. Oh, and there's one thing with the PPP, that a new rule that they put out in the last few days, that if you offered somebody a job and they're on unemployment now and they refuse to come back, you actually get credit as though you paid them, which is kind of ironic because they realize that the unemployment bonus combined with the other issues makes it hard to bring people back. The other discussion that's going on in phase 4 is doing something for essential workers, for people who have continued to work at the Walmarts of the world and are making less money than people who are on unemployment. So that basic inequity is something that parts of Congress are talking about addressing. So I don't really know, Roger, but that's the most of, that's my general impression right now.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Welcome. Okay. Any other questions? Well, we welcome your feedback. We will be contacting you because we've got to put together a results report for those of you who we know were able to get the PPP, so we can report to our funders on the number of loans we assisted and the gross amount that we were able to help small business access. Certainly no details and no names, but just number of loans and the gross amount of the borrowing. So we'll appreciate your support in that. And we're here for you.
And you'll be distributing the PowerPoints?
Yes.
Thank you.
I would say too, being that we've got Dave and Brent on, is, I mean, I wouldn't be afraid to start letting people know you're there and ready to start helping out, because I think a lot of small businesses are looking at, what do I do next? I know I'm going to open up in 2 weeks or a month, and I have no idea how I'm going to let people know I'm still here. You know, so.
Okay, well, thanks for your attention and your time. It's been a privilege to spend time with you, and we'll talk to you next week.
Hey, Barry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh.
Sorry. Barry, can you give me a call when you get some time?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Hey, did you want to leave me your number in the chat? I don't know if I.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
Hi, Ginger.
She does love Zoom calls.
Yeah, she does.
Bye-bye, folks.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
So guys, I actually have been approved by Corning Credit Union for SBA.
Excellent.
Yeah. Not a lot, but it's definitely, helpful. And now, you guys were instrumental in keeping, talking with Nancy before and Ashley about, what to do and how to do it. So what information do you guys need on your end?
Oh, so we would be looking at when you applied for it, when you received it, and then how much if you received the whole amount that you were asking for.
Yep. Okay.
But I mean, we would keep it confidential. Email us or something along those lines, or you can call us and let us know. But
okay, it was Monday is when I got approved.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, so it was great. Now I just have to figure out. So that presentation was perfect because it told me exactly like what to do now.
and we will work with you on the calculation piece, because it's a bit challenging. So
yes, I was actually thinking about calling Lynn, but if you guys can be a resource, I'm more than happy to use you.
Yeah,
instead.
I know Regina's working on it with some other folks, and I know Nancy loves that stuff as well. So
yeah,
okay.
And it might even be good if you work with Nancy, then you could relay that information to Lynn. I don't know how many people she's working with on this exact topic. I'm sure she's swamped right now, but
yes, I didn't even want to approach her yet. So
right.
I'm actually prompting an email to Nancy right now, but I'll copy you guys on it as well. So
Cool.
awesome. Thank you.
Great.
All right.
perfect.
All right.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
We'll see you
too.
later.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.